Michigan couple visits Portland on vacation, says they'll never come back. What do we got going on here? Young couple. The guy's lived there before. He takes his girlfriend. They drive 2,300 miles across the country to get to Portland. He's excited to show her, hey, this is where I used to live and work for like 4 years. Car gets broken into. Not once, but twice. Let's get into it. Here we go. Gotta say, this is probably the exception to the rule, but getting your car broken into in Portland or Seattle or LA, San Francisco, I think San Francisco and Oakland right now are literally taking the cake, right? The drive west was everything Adrian, Hamle, and Allora, Gwen had hoped it would be. Sorry, probably butchered those names. The trip from Grand Rapids, Michigan to Portland, Oregon was a long one, 2,300 miles. That is a road trip. But Adrian couldn't wait to introduce Allora to Portland. After all, he'd lived there from 2017 to 2020. Along the way, they stopped in Wisconsin, South Dakota, and Wyoming. The sightseeing was picturesque. The anticipation for the City of Roses was building. After all, that was their end destination. You know, go west, young man, go west. That used to be the big thing, right? And when we had the land rush and all of that stuff way back in the day as America was being developed. Go west, young man, go west. Yeah, I mean, Adrian was talking it up. I bet he is taking some you-know-what right now from the young lady. Hey, what was up with you telling us that Portland was just all that? Or maybe she's reasonable and she's like, okay, we should have done some more research. He was so excited to bring me. I was so excited to go. And I mean, we've had some people be like, oh yeah, there's a lot of homeless over there, so just be careful. And I was like, oh yeah, we'll be fine. I'm not too worried, said Allora. That name. I hear that all the time about Seattle as well. In fact, the other day I had somebody tell me, I just visited Seattle for the first time. I was in downtown. It was super clean. We only saw one little, homeless encampment. Everywhere else we went, it was great. It was nice. It was sunny. It was great. And then if you go a little further outside of the downtown core in Seattle, we have cleaned up the downtown. Well, don't go to Pike and Pine on 3rd Avenue. Don't go there. Don't go to the International District. Rough, right? That's the stuff. Those are the areas that you'll see Jonathan Cho talk about and do his video recordings of. So, you've got these areas of all towns, of all big cities that are good. And then you got some bad ones, right? Unfortunately, in Portland right now, it's like, it's fair game everywhere. So that's, kind of part of the deal. Portland right now, I think has had 3 murders in the last 4 days. I mean, they're going to have a record-setting year for murders in Portland, like Seattle did recently. They'd heard about Portland's crime issues, but understood it's something all big cities are going through. That's the thing everybody wants to point to. Yeah, big city, big crime. Well, you don't have the amount of crime escalating in other cities that aren't as blue, that aren't sanctuary cities. You know where I'm going with that? You have escalated levels of crime, yes, but not to the degree that we're continuously talking about. Because I don't have stories from other cities that are, say, a little bit more red. I don't have the multiple of stories. And so I got to pick the stories that I think are examples of just the chaos and, turmoil that has been caused by terrible policies over the years. And so, Portland and San Francisco are the poster childs. Seattle's right there, a distant third, not too distant third. It's right there. Because Seattle's got we've got some storylines that are like, what? You're doing what? Yeah. The day after arriving at their downtown Portland hotel, though, their excitement turned upside down. They turned their frown upside down. No, other way, right? When they headed to their car to find some shenanigans had happened. Yeah, they went to go find some coffee. to go find some coffee. One of my other podcasts I considered looking at was all of the restaurant closures that have happened. So many like little small coffee places, breweries, restaurants. A lot of that has to do with the downtown core being hollowed out, just like it's been hollowed out in San Francisco, because nobody's working in the downtown. And then if you got rough streets on top of that, yeah, you're going to have even more restaurants closing because they can't make it when there's nobody around. And the few people that are around are breaking into their stores, not good. And when we got to the car, they're looking for coffee. I looked down at the ground and I saw that there was a bunch of, I need to get you guys tuned in here. Sorry about that. And when we got to the car, I looked down at the ground and I saw that there was a bunch of glass and I was like, oh, weird. Yeah. When you ever experienced a crime, your car being broken into, you're like, that's really strange. Somebody else's window must have been, and then you realize, oh, it's my car. Oh, gosh darn it. And I was like, oh, weird. Okay. And I went to go open the door and saw that the window was smashed to pieces. That's not good. And at that moment, I was like, oh my, someone just broke into our car. And I was looking around to see what was stolen. She said, the thieves had taken a Nintendo Switch video game, but their camping gear was still there. What happened there? I mean, they got one good item and they're out of there. We'll just let them have the camping gear. Camping gear. I mean, REI closed down not too long ago, right? In Portland. And I had somebody tell me, well, yeah, there was basically about a block away underneath an overpass. There was a place where they sold all the stolen REI stuff. But also, Sean, think about it. Camping in Portland, REI, you're going to steal some stuff from that store because they got the good stuff, right? You got good tents there. We are not talking about Coleman. We're not talking about Coleman gear. We're talking about Mountain Hardware, you name it, some good stuff. What other tent manufacturers do I know? Yeah, I'll think of it. Distressed by what had happened, they decided to park in a different garage and on the top floor, figuring that would be safer. Move your car up. Any of these parking garages, they're fair game, right? They're fair game. I've talked about, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to try and make these parking garages in Portland safer we're going to assign more security officers. Somebody gets in, they want to do their thing. There's only so much security can cover. And that costs a lot of money. And you can't jack up your parking rates, commensurate with what it's going to take to bring in full-time security all the time. A lot of parking garages can't anyway. A few days later, they learned it wasn't, figuring that it would be safer, move that car up top. So as I'm coming from the elevator and walking through the door and whatnot, I noticed the film that we put over to cover the broken window initially was cut through. And then as I was walking around the vehicle, just about every single window was shattered, besides the windshield, and our stuff that was in the vehicle, from her coloring books and stuff like that and pens, that they're all just scattered all over the place. And just about everything we had in the vehicle, which is a little more than we had the first time we were broken into because we're just about to leave, just about everything was stolen, said Adrian. Got all their stuff jacked. And they got a broken window. And they're going to wait until they get home to get it fixed, right? At this point in time, they're just like, get us the F out of Portland. This does not bode well for tourism. 2 break-ins in a matter of days. The city had driven thousands. The city they had driven thousands of miles to see had turned scary. They say that they got little help from a parking garage employee. It hadn't turned scary. It's just that their perception had changed, right? It's people that come to Seattle are like, everything's great. I had somebody that I know that I was on, that I was part of a mastermind with. And and I've talked about him before. He described his experience walking from where he had parked in the Soto area, south of the dome, up to the old Kingdome location where we've got 2 big domes now, baseball and football, soccer too. And he said it was fine. He said, they've really cleaned it out. As far as when we had the whole Taylor Swift thing, you can have areas that have been cleaned out and you're like, oh, okay, this is fine. Or you can hit the unlucky jackpot like these folks have and have their car broken into. I think Portland just has a higher level of break-ins like this is kind of my understanding. It's kind of my reckoning, because they have so few police that the criminals there know that they can get away with exponentially more because there's so little coverage for incidences like this. And then we're going to hear about it. So they said they got little help from a parking garage employee. Well, what's that guy going to do? File a police report for him? That's if the police show up, right? Because they got all kinds of other stuff. Portland, 3 murders in the last 4 days, I think it is. They got stuff going on besides somebody's car being broken into. Yeah, he laughed in my face, the security guard, and said, or the parking attendant, he laughed in my face and said, "This happens all the time." I was like, "That does not make me feel very good at all about the situation," Allora said. No, it wouldn't, but it wasn't really meant to. It's just the reality that if you're going to park your car anywhere near downtown in Portland, the odds are it might get broken into. Now, some of the footage we're seeing out of Oakland is just, it wouldn't have taken a couple of days for the car to be broken into. It'd be like the next day, right? I mean, that's what we are consistently seeing down in Oakland. It's just wildly out of control. People just, doing their bipping or bipping, as a lot of people like to refer to it as, in broad daylight, because what's going to stop them? I mean, there's 24 hours in a day and daylight, criminal activity. It's what we're doing. Just go for it. And just like that, their Portland bubble was popped. Their safety became paramount. But after our car got broken into the first time, we decided to go out and explore the city a bit, said Allora. I can say that I was definitely a little more fearful and making sure that everything was good around us. Just because, I don't know, I'm not going to lie, I was kind of scared. Your car got broken into a couple of times, and there are scary people running around, and this can happen. I was in downtown Seattle, very close to Pioneer Square, which is kind of the epicenter it's the very oldest part of downtown Seattle, a few months ago for a concert. And I was worried about my car getting broken into. It was sketch. That could very easily happen. So, in these cities, people need to know this kind of stuff can and probably will happen if you're there long enough. Don't leave anything in your car. Like San Francisco is going through all right, instead of actually taking care of the criminal element that's causing all these break-ins, we need to warn people as they come into our big tourist parking lots of our parks. Hey, don't leave anything in your car. See the sticker up on the light pole? It says, don't leave anything in your car. Don't leave anything in your car. They'll get it. And they're going around, they've got parked, not rangers, but people there from the city to say, all right, guys, this is an extremely high theft area. Don't leave anything in your cars that you want stolen, because so many tourists like these folks right here. And this guy wasn't a tourist, right? This guy was not a tourist. He had lived there. And yet, his experience wildly different. If this couple gets married, he's going to have some explaining to do for the rest of his life, right? Remember that one trip we took to Portland? Yes, I do. I do. I don't need you to bring that up again. Okay. It's just that I know our car got broken into twice. And what happened to the city that Adrian remembered? I hear that a lot. I hear a lot of, I remember going to Seattle and it was epic, or I lived in Seattle and then it started to get bad. And then I got out and I'm happy living in Tennessee. Like, okay. Yeah. Hey, I hear you. I get it. I'm not really sure where it's gone. It's gotten so bad, but it's a lot different than what I'm used to, what I was used to, he said, comparing previous to now. He's saying it's different. And I don't think anybody that's been there long term would disagree. Hey, it's changed, and not necessarily for the better. And my point to putting these podcasts out is not to rail on Portland, because that's easy enough to do. I mean, just read the general news. It's to bring awareness to incidents like this that a lot of people are just going to pass over, because, this has been going on for a number of years now, this escalated level of crime. And yet you still got people that have lived there from the past that aren't aware of how bad it is. I will tell people from Seattle all the time, I'm like, Portland is having a tough time. They are really, really having a tough time. And people will look at me that live here and will just look at me with blank stares like, well, what do you mean? Like, have you been to Portland lately? I was there like 12 years ago. I'm like, okay, well, it's a different story. You should go. You know what? Just drive down I-5. Just tell me what you see. And with Portland in the rearview mirror, they still had to drive back to Michigan with plastic film covering their windows the whole way. That had to have been a loud, just as plastic billows at 67 or 65 miles an hour. A 30-hour drive home with no windows. And at night, it got really cold. And during the day, it got hot in most of the states on our way home. Miserable, but memorable, right? Remember that trip? Remember that trip you made me do going to Portland in our car? Yep. Just get it out. Just tell me again how. Remember on the way back, the wind billowing and making just that horrific noise as we drove 30? I do remember that. Maybe she'll just be like, yeah, it was an experience. Chalk it up to experience. So we just weren't comfortable at all. I had to put on some clothes we had from the hotels. I had to put those on the seat so that, we weren't sitting on glass on accident. I did end up having a piece of glass in my foot the entire 30-hour drive home. Remember that yep, I do remember that piece of glass in your foot. KATU News reached out to Mayor Ted Wheeler's office to get their reaction to the couple's experience. I mean, what are you going to say? It happened. You got a bunch of whacked out drug addicts running around. You got people that are committing crime to pay for their drug addictions. You got people that are breaking into stuff all day long because you don't have enough police. This is nothing new. We are not talking about something new. So Mayor Ted, can you tell us in your own words, your reaction to hearing that this poor couple from Michigan that drove 2,300 miles so that he could bring his girlfriend back. Fiance sounds more convincing, doesn't it? Because it sounds like they're going to make a commitment. Brings his fiance back. They're maybe going to make a trip to Portland and talk about living there, moving there, spending the rest of their lives there together, building a life. Their car gets broken into twice, not once, Mayor Ted, but twice. What's he going to say? He's going to say, this is an incredibly disheartening and frustrating situation, said Cody Bowman, communications director for the mayor. Reminds me of Corinne Jean-Pierre. She is she's so bad that she's entertaining. I will tune in to watch the Peter Ducey just. And he asked the most obvious question. And she's like, well, Peter, I think we should back up. And I want to let you know that we've done this and this. And Peter's like, you're not answering my question. So it's an incredibly disheartening and frustrating situation. He went on to list several changes the city has implemented to improve downtown safety. Safer summer PDX. Well, we're in fall now. That hasn't really happened. Nothing you can do is going to change anything overnight, right? So we've got right now in Portland, we've got Washington State, or not, I said Washington State Patrol, but Oregon State Patrol. They are going out, and it's my understanding that they are quite curious as to the fact of why people are being arrested. They're involved in some arrests, and they're concerned that how quickly the arrestees are turned back out on the streets. This is novel to them, to the state troopers. Like, why is that guy back out already? I mean, it's barely past lunchtime and we arrested him mid-morning. What's the deal? This is Portland. I mean, that's what we're doing. If you don't have a rock solid, tight case, let him go. Let him go on his own personal recognizance. It's fine. He'll be back. We'll get him later. We'll get him on the flip side. We'll get him a 2-for-1 special. He went on to list several changes. All right, whatever. For example, City Council approved a $6 million contract for improved private security in parking garages, including 24-hour security for Portland's 5 downtown city parking garages. Well, that doesn't seem to help out our couple, does it? No. they experienced something different. All right, Mayor Ted. Well, you got the $6 million contract. Our car got broken into twice. Yeah. Tricky. Problematic. Yeah. That sucks. What are you going to say? They also point to a recent public-private collaboration to fund additional security officers specifically to patrol the hotel district 7 days a week. So what we're doing here, the 24-hour security for Portland's 5 downtown city parking garages, that's just those garages. You got garages all over town. You're not taking care of the problem here. You're not. And you don't have the ability in the near future to take care of the problem either. You need some more police and you need to arrest people and put them in jail, right? We're not really doing that. We're not really doing, especially in Portland, we're not really doing that. You look at the Multnomah, the district attorney's, Mike Schmidt, you look at his prosecution record. He's prosecuting less than half the cases brought to him, whereas the neighboring counties are like at 86% and 75%. I'm going off memory here, and I know that's wrong. But when I read it, it was like, oh, yeah, we are prosecuting way less cases, both felony and misdemeanor in Multnomah County, which is Portland, essentially. They're just not, they're not prosecuting people. So people committing the crimes, they know they're going to get away with it. So you can bring in your $6 million contract. And you can, all this stuff is based on, okay, we know the criminal element is out there and they're going to do their thing. Instead of, let's hit up that criminal element. We're not doing that because they don't have the ability to. You can't hire enough police to make Portland safe right now because numbers are going the other way. People are still retiring and there's going to be more people retiring, right? Because that's what people do at the end of their career. And they have a right to. If you're still a cop in Portland and you've made it through the summer of love and all this ridiculousness and it's your time to retire, I don't blame you. In fact, I'm like, what's taking you so long here? And it's because they signed a commitment and they've spent their entire career trying to keep the streets of Portland safe. And it's gone wildly sideways on them. And they don't necessarily want to retire because then you leave. You're just one more piece of the puzzle that's going the wrong way. But at some point in time, you got to take care of your family and take yourself out of harm's way, which means every day you put on you go out in the streets as a cop, you got a target on you. You know what I mean? That's a tough gig, brutal gig. They also point to a recent public-private collaboration to fund additional security officers, specifically to patrol the hotel district 7 days a week. These guys come in and bip these cars so quick. It's like 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Literally, you are seeing TikToks of that all day long. Boom. They'll have somebody patrolling the parking lot. They'll have somebody walking through the parking lot. They make note of which cars are going to be rental cars. And they know the odds of people having a bunch of stuff in those cars is pretty high because this is not their first rodeo. So you having people patrol through the district, helpful a little bit, but is it going to solve the problem? Absolutely not. And does it help out this couple? No. Longer term, they're working to restaff the Portland Police Bureau. That is not going well. It's not going particularly well. Deploying officers where they'll have the most impact. A lot of police departments across the United States, it's not going well. Nobody wants to be a police officer because we've just taken society has taken enormous crap on police officers. And as a result, people who have the option of maybe I'll become a cop. What, are you mad? Did you not see what happened to them during the summer of love? Yeah, nobody wants that gig. Nobody wants that gig. I think a lot of it also is that it's a hard gig and nobody wants to work hard anymore. People are like, if I can't work from home, it's not really a good fit for me. I got to actually go out and interact with people and I got to clock in and clock. You mean I can't, bill for 8 hours a day and work 2? Oh man, I don't know. People are going to say mean things to me. Oh, no way. But I do want to carry a gun though. I want to carry a gun and, People make decisions on such crazy stuff. So the couple says overall, it was a good vacation. Overall, I'd say the 2 break-ins would probably bring it down to a 1 star, wouldn't you? Yeah. But, the fact that they're saying it's a good vacation, Portland does have, whenever I look at the map of Portland, I look at how many breweries are there, and I'm like, Portland is loaded up. And if strip clubs are your thing, Portland is probably your town. Because you look at the number of it's the number 1 strip club in the United States, strip clubs per capita. And the quality of the strip club is, if that's your thing, you probably want to go to Portland, right? Fully unclothed and booze. Again, I am not a proponent of said activities, but if you were, I hear Portland is a good place to go. And I've heard that from multiple people. Sean, you need to get out more. Like, well, yeah, but no. But their days spent in Portland are not something they want to repeat. I don't blame them. These are young kids. They don't have a ton of resources. It's not like they can go out and just fully replace everything on the way home. They're kind of just making do till they get home. They don't have the ability to just get their window taken care of right then. They're going to go home. They're going to figure it out. They're going to hunker down. They're going to do whatever, right? As part of the idea of us going to Portland was to show her the city and all that jazz to potentially move back. That was kind of like the end of the goal after all of this. I don't think I'll ever be back in Portland. Maybe to like the southern parts or like Bend, Oregon, to kind of show the places that we didn't get to visit. But other than that, I don't think I'll ever visit Portland, Oregon again, said Adrian. Let's talk about that. Go to Southern Oregon? You go to Bend, Oregon. Bend, Oregon is epic. Epic. I mean, it's super cool. It's like high desert. I used to take my kids, and I think the biggest group we took to Sun River, which is a big kind of resort community with like lots of wreck cabins and nice homes. I mean, and rivers there and all kinds of stuff. Biggest group I took was myself and I think 12, my kids included, and then 10 of their friends, maybe including me. We had like a crew of 12 boys. It was some fun. I mean, we floated the river. We did some off-roading in the woods, just, lots of great stuff. And that's the thing that I think a lot of folks are missing, is that most of the crime is associated just to the Portland area. Outside of Portland in Oregon, you've got all kinds of cool stuff going on, and you don't necessarily have the negative impacts that you have here. But Portland itself, because of how the things have gone, and particularly politically in Portland, that's why you've got the whole eastern side of Oregon wanting to, decamp and go hang out with Idaho, Greater Oregon. Greater Idaho, the movement to basically secede the eastern half of Oregon, because it's so different, and that's where Bend, Oregon is. It's east, and it's high desert, and it's hot, and you don't have it doesn't rain every single day. It's a wildly different environment. You might see a Trump sign or two. You're going to see that. Same thing here in Washington. You get over the Cascade Mountains, and I point east. You get over the Cascade Mountains during an election, last couple of elections, you're like, whoa, is that a Trump sign I see off in the 100 acres over there? And it is, because those people vote very conservatively, and they're farmers. They are ranchers. They are business owners. They're not down with the urban politics that has basically destroyed Portland to the point where, some kids coming back to look to see if they want to make Oregon a home down the road, maybe raise some kids there. Like, I don't think so. Well, let's go to Bend, right? Let's go to Bend. Let's go to Bend and see what's going on. Some cool stuff there to do. So don't hesitate to visit Oregon. But, if you're going to go to downtown Portland, caveat emptor, right? Let the buyer beware. Let the traveler beware. And so that's why I wanted to do this podcast from the standpoint of, it's not the horror show that the media makes it out to be, but it's also not great. right? It's not great. San Francisco, I would say, just level of craziness going on. It beats Portland. And I will be going to both locations. I've been to both of them multiple times over the years, but just not recently enough. It's been a few years since I've even been to Portland. So I'm going to go down and hang out and see what's going on. And I will live stream some of that. So yeah, there's that. Thanks so much for being here on this one. I will catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.